So much for listening to this episode of Earrings Off. We want to invite you to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. You can find us on Facebook at Earrings Off Podcast and on Instagram at The Earrings Off Podcast.
Welcome to Earrings Off. I'm Lou.
And I'm Teresa. Let's get started.
Hello, I'm Teresa, co-host of the Earrings Off podcast. This week, we kick off an Earrings Off two-part series that we're calling The Marriage Code. In this first part, we will dive deep into the intricate and rewarding world of relationships. Whether you're thinking about getting married, newly married, seasoned partners, or somewhere in between, this series is for you. In our first episode, we're thrilled to welcome Jeeva and Sulojana Sam. They are renowned marriage mentors and authors of the Unbreakable Marriage. The Sams were brought together in an arranged marriage by their parents in August of 1983. With years of experience guiding couples through the highs and lows of marriage, they bring invaluable insights into what it takes to build strong and lasting relationships. Get this, they are on a mission to save 50,000 marriages from divorce over the next 5 years. This is a good one, y'all. Enjoy.
Well, hello. We have with us today Jeeva and Sulojana Sam. Thank you so much for joining us today here on Earrings Off.
Thank you for this opportunity. Yeah.
We're excited about that. We're looking forward to this discussion. Tell us more about how an arranged marriage works and what we in the West can learn from the success of arranged marriages. Talk a little bit about that. Now, this may or may not be good information for you, but one of my favorite shows is the Indian matchmaking show. Is that a bad thing? Because I'm telling you, I'm hooked. I follow all of that. I'm fascinated really by arranged marriages. For some reason, I don't know what it is, but anyway, I do follow that. So please share with us, talk to us about how it works and maybe what we can learn from the success of arranged marriages, because I know it's reality TV, but when I watch them, I'm telling you, they're quite successful. So talk to us about that.
So in the Indian culture, in a marriage, it is not two people coming together. It is two families coming together. Yeah. So what happens is when, parents have a daughter who's ready to get married, finished university, finished all her studies, and they feel like, this is the time to get married. And they will let some of the relatives, their friends, the family, whoever that they trust, know that, they are looking for a groom, for a husband for their daughter. And also, some people also use, marriage brokers. So you pay them, and they have a list of the names of girls that they will try and match with the names of the guys. And, the parents will let them know, because in our Indian culture, there are families who are Hindus, Muslims, Christians, and, other religions as well. So they will tell them, we want a Christian husband. I'm taking myself into consideration.
Right.
So Christian, and my dad was very, very strict. So no smoking, no drinking, if you can check that out. Those kind of qualities. And they match the education. The parents talk about dowry is still involved. When they're happy, the parents first, when the matchmakers, find somebody, the parents get together first and talk about these things. And once they are happy, then the children, in some cases get to meet. Some of them don't even
Yeah,
get to
I
meet.
saw that.
Yeah, yeah.
But as much as I know about it, all of it starts though to me, and this is me looking on the outside. There's so much respect for the parents.
Yes.
The children, they respect the parents and they trust that the parents are going to make a good decision for them.
Yes.
And I just, that's sort of different from
Yes.
where we are here. And I marvel at that.
Yeah.
Because, their parents, you love your child. You
Mm-hmm.
want your child to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
You want what's best for them. And you know better than anyone, maybe. You
Yeah.
know this person. And you know your expectations, what you want for them and what they voice to you. So I'm just fascinated by it. I really am. But okay.
Yeah.
So now what can we in the West learn from the success of arranged marriages? Because I know from what I've seen and read, they can be quite successful.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the things we can learn is in the Western world, we put a lot of emphasis on this whole phenomenon of falling in love.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so now the social scientists tell us that falling in love is really a chemical response that happens in your brain. It's a chemical cocktail that actually gives you that rush. And so if you make your decision on choosing a life partner simply on the basis of how you feel about them or how they make you feel, then you are not being holistic, in your approach. Whereas it's really interesting because we got asked this question the other day. So when did you fall in love? And it's like in the Indian culture, falling in love is not what is stressed. It is making the marriage work.
Yeah.
Because regardless of whether we arrange the marriage ourselves, as in Western culture, or as in the Indian culture, your parents arrange it, or God drops your spouse from the sky, no matter how it happens, ultimately the success of the marriage is about the choice that you make to spend your life with this person, through the thick and the thin, for richer, for poorer, all those things that we say in our vows. And so it's a decision that you make with the determination that we will make this work no matter what. Like both of us grew up with our parents saying, there's no such word as divorce in our dictionary. And so this thought of, if it doesn't work out, we can get a divorce, or maybe we made a mistake, let's start again with somebody new. That is not part of the Indian culture, and partly a Christian influence as well. And so that's something definitely, everyone can learn in the Western world, from arranged marriages.
And Lou also and Teresa, parents look at everything from a different perspective. There's no emotions involved.
Right.
Yeah, I think you touched a little bit. No emotions, like you said. They are looking out for the best for their children. So that's one thing. In the Western culture, if they don't are not comfortable, asking their parents, maybe they can check with the pastor or somebody they trust, a family member. Hey, I'm dating this person. From your perspective, what do you see? Do you see us as a good match? Somebody, they're more matured than them. Yeah, get their opinion. That's something. Yeah, we tell couples.
Well, we talked about the children, even though they're adults, trusting their parents, and they've been taught to rely on their parents to help them make the best choice in terms of their mate. But also, Jeeva, you referenced they understand divorce is not an option. When you commit like that, when you grow up knowing that, okay, this is what we're doing, and everybody understands that. Because I remember years ago talking to a first cousin, and she had gotten divorced several years before. And of course, I knew her husband at the time. He was in the family. And I asked her, well, what happened? She said, she stopped in her tracks and she said, now I don't even remember what was so awful. And that just struck me. I thought to myself, you were married and it was so awful that you wanted out, and you're telling me you don't remember what was, so awful. And I will never forget that. I was pretty young in my marriage at the time, but yeah, I do remember that. So, mhm.
All right. Why do you say that there are no such things as marriage problems?
So, the rest of the quote goes like this. So there are no such things as marriage problems, but there are two individuals with their own problems coupled together in a marriage. And together they give birth to what we call marriage problems. In other words, in our marriage mentorship process, we have couples coming to us. Most of them are in a desperate place, probably one or two steps away from divorce court.
Mhm.
And so when they come to us, they almost always blame the other person for where they're at, or they focus on the problems that emerged after they were married. And so one of the revelations that we received when we launched this process is that no, it is not about the problems in your marriage. It's also about the problems you brought into your marriage, like all the baggage, all the childhood, traumas, experiences, the beliefs that were instilled in you for good or for bad. All those things really make you who you are, and they still will keep on cropping up if this is the key. If those hurts from the past have not been healed, then they will continue to cause you to hurt each other. And so we all get hurt in life. So before we're married, we're all hurt. But it's not the hurts that make the difference. It's the unhealed hurts. And so once you take care of those, that's what we mean by problems. Once you get some healing for them, then you will look at each other from a perspective of someone who is healed rather than someone who is still hurting.
Okay. What advice do you have for couples who are not yet married about choosing their future spouse? And I just want to caution you to speak a little slower, because I am definitely going to cut out this and send it to my son. So you just need to know that up front. I will make sure if he doesn't hear the rest of it, I'm going to make sure he gets this part. So again, the question is, what advice do you have for couples who are not yet married about choosing their future spouse?
Check with your parents.
Thank you.
I think, I mentioned just a while ago, parents are the best. Like our two boys, after they were dating, they're married now, their spouses for a little while, they did come to us and ask, and we met them a few times, their spouses at that point. How do you feel, about this, my girlfriend, girlfriend at that time? And, I thought, that's a good thing. There was one, I still remember, our youngest one. We were not sure, this is not the wife he's married to, another girl. At that time, we were not sure at all. And I think we kind of told him, but, he didn't listen to us. So eventually they broke up. And now, the both of them, the wives they are married to, are the ones that, we said yes. Yeah.
And one other thing that I will tell couples, even in the dating phase, is ask the tough questions of each other. Like, don't somehow ignore because we have couples telling us afterwards, well, there were some red flags, but we thought everything will be fine after we got married.
That's right.
Or even worse, somebody saying, I thought I could change.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This person,
him.
That's common.
Yeah.
after we got married, and it's like, not going to happen. And so
make all the changes before.
Right.
And also full disclosure. Like one of the things that sometimes people, get hit with, after they get married is, oh, you carry how much debt? Uh,
Yeah,
yeah. Who did you loan money to? Like some of
right.
those, no secrets. I think one of the
Right.
things that couples should really ask each other, hey, you know what? I'm not going to, get upset, but can you tell me what are some secrets? What are some things about you that I don't know yet?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and because if those things come out in the open after they get married, now it's often when there's loss of trust, it is very difficult to get that trust back. So you take the chance, before you get married that I'm going to share something and that may not sit well, with this person, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Talk a little bit about the process you use to help couples achieve breakthrough from breakdown.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll start off and then I'll have Sulojana come in. So one of the things that God showed us when we launched the process is that most couples coming to us are living in a toxic atmosphere. And if you don't clean up the toxicity right off the bat, then anything that we teach them is not going to help them grow. They will grow for a period, but then the atmosphere will be toxic and it will stunt their growth. And so we start off by helping couples shift the spiritual atmosphere, in their marriage, which essentially means eliminate a lot of the negativity that is there intentionally, and then overpower the negativity with positivity. In our case, as Christians, we would call that the power of the Holy Spirit. And so they do it by practicing some habits. And then the second major block of our process is what we call removing spiritual blockages.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's where, the inner, we call it, where they get the healing for all the trauma or abuse, whatever they've gone through in a broken relationship from the past. So we send them to, train people, who can do that for them. So they go really deep, receive all the healing that they need, lots of forgiveness,
Yeah.
prayers. And, when they come back, their hearts are softened towards each other. And then we are ready, they are ready to learn new things, resolving conflicts and
Yeah,
those kind of
yeah.
things.
We start off with communication, teaching them some good communication habits, and basically, like we believe that no conflict has to stay unresolved. Like every conflict will have a resolution, but one of the reasons why a lot of conflicts don't get resolved is people don't know how to handle it the proper way.
Right.
So sometimes it can be fight or flight or freeze, all those responses. And sometimes we hear couples say, well, we just simply agree to disagree, and that can be a good compromise. But if you keep on agreeing to disagree, you're actually getting farther and farther away from each other. So you really need to learn how to confront conflict head on, but also resolve it in a way that doesn't make things worse. So we teach people how to fight fairly, if you will, and take both people's opinions, feelings into consideration. So after we handle communication and conflict resolution, then we teach them some very fundamental things about how to make time for each other, because that seems to be a huge issue these days. How to handle finances in a way and really be on the same page. We find if we can get a husband and a wife on the same page, then they can resolve these things and work on these things in a way that is healthy. And of course, we help them improve their sexual connection by identifying what are some things that are inhibiting their intimacy and what are some things they can do to enhance intimacy. And then we finally end our process with.
Then we teach them the boundaries, how to keep their marriage, protected. Some of the boundaries, like when you're dealing with the opposite sex, on social media or even at work, how to handle them. Those kind of things, boundaries. So that's how we end.
And you're able to do this in 10 to 12 weeks, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So That's amazing in such a short period of time.
Yeah. So when we launched this whole process, we weren't sure what to call ourselves because like we don't have a counseling background. I mean, I was
Mhm.
the pastor for 35 years, so I did do some counseling, over that time, but that was not my primary training.
Mhm.
And we didn't want to call ourselves marriage coaches because we were doing more than coaching. And so eventually we decided to call ourselves marriage mentors. And so what we felt God wanting us to do was really to work with couples as closely as possible without moving in with them or them moving in with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the 10 to 12 week period is actually very intense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we put them through the ringer. We make sure they're totally accountable to us. So every day they have to check off that certain habits that they've both been doing. And because of that accountability, we also offer a money back guarantee that if they follow all those steps and do everything we teach them and don't get the breakthrough, then hey, take your money. We don't want your money. But so far, nobody's asked for their money back because
Wow.
everyone who follows everything we teach gets the breakthrough. And because it's a very intense period of 3 to 12 weeks, we meet with them once a week. We have a midweek call,
Yeah.
and we give them 24/7 access to us.
We also
Wow.
give them
Wow.
homework,
Yeah.
to do.
Mhm.
And yeah, some of them they can do it individually. Some of them as a couple. As their relationship gets better, then we give them homework where they can do it together. And
Yeah.
and
And
then we
yeah.
check up, with them on the homework as well.
Yeah. And the 24/7 access actually makes sure that if something comes in, let's say they meet with us Tuesday and then have a blow up on Thursday, they don't have to wait till next week's session to bring it up. They can just send a quick text and we can get on a call with them and help them to navigate, especially sometimes unexpected things come up or somebody will disclose something that they hadn't disclosed before. And that can turn out to be, like very explosive. And so rather than them do it and then push the process backwards. It's like, no, Jeeva and Sulojana are just one text message, one phone call away. So that's one of the reasons, the strict accountability, the 24/7 access, and we monitor, all that they do. Like when they work on the workbook, they have to send us copies of what they did.
Yeah.
And and that's how we're able to produce those kind of results in a very short time.
Wow. And is that the way that you're saving 50,000 marriages over 5 years?
Yeah. Well, that's the process we're going to use.
Okay.
However,
Okay.
we're not going to be able to do the 50,000 on our own.
Okay.
And so two things we're doing. One is actually training other people to be also marriage mentors like us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
they go through our process, experience it, and then they shadow us, and then we release them to do that on their own. And another thing that we're doing right now, came up with an e-course because our present generation, the younger generation, prefers videos, and so they won't read a book, but they'll watch videos. And
Yeah.
so the e-course is meant to be done by two couples pairing up with each other.
Yeah, yeah. So what we do is we train the mentoring couples first, and then these are couples who have a pretty stable marriage. They've been married a little bit longer, and then we can match them up with couples who are married just for a short time, a year or 2 years, 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing we are working on with the churches, to see if they want to partner with us to do that. And that's how we can accomplish that 50,000, saving 50,000
And
marriages.
the third thing
Wow.
we started doing recently, we actually started setting up booths in wedding shows, where everybody's coming and they're so focused on the wedding day, hardly anybody wants to talk about what happens the day after the wedding. And so we do a little bit of a reality check and say, hey, your wedding will be unforgettable, but will your marriage be unbreakable?
Wow.
And we're shocked at how many couples enter marriage these days without any form of marriage preparation. So and some may actually believe they don't need it anymore. Well, we've been living together, we know each other like the palm of our hand, and so we don't need that. And it's like, let's talk in a year, and then we'll see where you're at. Yeah. So with all those three steps, we believe that the 50,000 goal of 50,000 is very attainable.
Nice.
Okay. So explain the spirit, soul, body connection that underlines your marriage mentorship process and talk to us about how couples can learn to communicate better.
Okay. So the spirit soul body connection is really, we believe, the way that God has created human beings. So we are spirit beings with a soul in a body. And what we mean by soul is the collective name given to your mind, will, and emotions. And so when we have a problem, for example, in a marriage, a lot of times couples want behavior modification techniques. So give me a strategy, and so, okay, hold your breath. Next time you get angry, calm down, cool down, and then talk to each other. Like that's the techniques.
Mm-hmm.
But that's only something that you do at the body level, at the physical level. If that's all you do, and you still have stuff unresolved, whether it's emotionally, whether it's some memories of past trauma that are still, in some ways like in the orbit, and they're messing with you, then this physical solution, or making a determination, I will never talk to my wife that way again. I will only use these words. Like these are on the willpower. After a while, it will not be sufficient because you're only taking your physical part of your body, of your being. So now when you start paying attention to the what we talked about, the healing, the memories, the trauma, and they're taking the soul seriously, so that's what counseling. Most counselors focus on the soul area. As a matter of fact, the word psychologist, psychiatrist has the word suhe, which is the Latin word for soul in it. But then beyond that, if you try to do marriage, it's our belief, without the help of God, if you just try to do it on your own, when you run into certain walls and limitations, you will be stuck. You will need that power. And the spirit level is when you, like unfortunately, one of the things that couples do when they have problems in the marriage is they hold grudges. And so they do not ask forgiveness, easily. And so we always, say, you got to forgive quickly and you got to forgive fully. In other words, once you've forgiven somebody fully, then that means that hurt will not keep cropping up, and you won't keep on bringing that up in future conversations or using that as ammunition against your spouse. And so that's where the spirit, the forgiveness, and the connection with God, and then what's inside of you, your mind, will, and emotions, and then the things that you do physically, you put them all together. Now you have a very holistic and healthy marriage.
And what about how can they communicate better?
Now, first of all, we teach them active listening. Now, active listening is, some people call that as parroting or mirroring, so you have to be listening carefully to what your spouse is saying.
Without looking at your phone.
No. Yeah. And then also repeating in your own words. Doesn't have to be word by word what they just said. So that to show them, that you were listening and you understood what they said. And then we move on to phrase. Phrasing your hurt. How do you phrase your hurt? Without shouting or causing
or blaming.
Yeah. So we tell them to start the sentence with "when you," and then finish it off with "I felt." So say, when you came home late without letting me know, I felt, hurt. I felt angry. Whatever feelings, then. So there's two things happens there. First of all, you're letting your spouse know exactly what they did without, like Jeeva said, without blaming them or condemning them. And then secondly, you're telling them how this made you feel, your feelings. So your spouse cannot say, you cannot, you're not supposed to feel that way. So you have to respect their feelings, how made them feel.
Yeah. The thing is, a lot of times when you don't know these kind of formulations, like the same spouse can tell the other one, What do you mean? You just came home late. You never even had the courtesy to call me and let me know. What kind of moron are you? Don't you have no sensitivity. You don't care for me, do you? Like that still got the same message across and all the feelings came out.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
rather
I
than,
see the
but if you
difference.
do that, the other person's going to get defensive.
Right.
And and they'll justify, why they didn't, call them ahead of time. And then they'll start focusing on, well, and you're no saint either. What about the time you? So this
Right.
avoids all of that. So the message gets across, the hurt you caused, how it made me feel, but without fireworks, without explosions. And when you phrase it in almost like a logical way of conveying your feelings, there's a bit of a paradox there, then you are now setting the stage to actually resolve that conflict. You're in a proper frame of mind, in a good place to work through it. If you went the other way, you may not get to the point of actually, working through the issue and coming up with some good solutions.
Now, all this are, good methods, but it all takes practice. It doesn't come easily. Sometimes, you burst out and then you realize, oh, I shouldn't have done it that way. And then you do it the proper way. So it all takes time. As long as you keep on practicing, it will come. It'll come. Yeah.
Well, in your work within that time period, does the external family, the other family members, do they play a role in any of this? Is there, when you referenced earlier boundaries, or is there at any point any impact with external folks? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, we do not have any direct contact with them, of course.
Yeah.
Because we work with just the couple. So the first place where the impact actually happens is when they start forgiving, because almost always everyone has to forgive their parents, sometimes siblings and people that are close to them in that circle. And so when you then look at them from a place of forgiveness, you look at them very differently than from a place of like anger and especially repressed, feelings and all those things that you bottle up inside. And so that's one of the ways it changes. The second thing is sometimes, people have to then set boundaries, and which is when we started talking about the Indian culture, and the Indian culture, because you value and honor your parents so highly, sometimes we'll be very reluctant to tell our parents something that they're doing that may be impacting our marriage adversely. So we teach couples how to do that. But also realizing that when they start setting those boundaries, it will not necessarily go smooth. But be prepared for that. But
and do it in love.
Do it in love, exactly. Speak the truth in love. That's what the Bible says. So
Right.
You still want to honor them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, those are all of the questions that we have for you today. You've certainly shared a lot of information. I can already tell that the work you're doing is amazing. So thank you for the actual work that you're doing to strengthen families. Do you have any parting words for our audience here at Earrings Off?
So one of the things we like to tell couples, because I'm pretty sure some of the couples that are listening to this are at the point in their marriage where they're not sure they're going to make it. Or they may be even at the point of already, going through separation or something like that. And so the main message we want to tell everybody is, number one, there's hope for you. Don't give up hope.
Yeah. And, there's help there out for them. If it's not us, there are maybe in their own circles, in their own, friends or family, or at the church, they can get help. Or counselors, professionals. Don't give up. We trust that God brings people together in marriage, and if they make up their mind and if they put their hearts together, they can, with the help of God, they can work their marriage, no matter how bad it is.
Yeah. And the third message we want to give people is, every hurt can be healed. There's no such hurt that cannot be healed. And so with hope, help, and healing, you can make things work, you can get them back on track.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your heart here on Earrings Off. We wish you all the very best. Take good care.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Yeah.